Thank you so much once again for joining me on Sarva Gunn Sampann. It's my privilege to host this podcast and invite my guests who represent a cross-section of society, who come from all walks of life, all sorts of backgrounds, vocations and avocations. I'm so grateful to you for subscribing to this channel, and I'm very, very grateful to every single guest of mine, past, present, and future, who is on this show to share a wealth of knowledge. So thank you once again for joining me. My guest today is a woman who values empathy, trust, and passion. Her strengths include positive outlook, building teams, communication, and respect. I'm really pleased to invite Meera Kondapaneni on Sarva Gunn Sampann. Meera, it's a great pleasure to have you. How are you?
I'm doing really well, and I'm excited to be part of Sarva Gunn Sampann family, and I'm honored to be, talking to you today. Thank you.
You are so welcome, and indeed, it's an honor for me to have you here. I know you've got a very busy schedule, but I feel grateful that you agreed to be my guest and you're able to take this time off to do this with me. So it really makes me very happy, and I cannot wait to learn more about you, Meera. All the great things you do. We'll get started with our very first segment, which is all about your childhood. It's called Bachchpan Ke Din. Here, I would love to learn about what growing up was like for you. So, Bachchpan Ke Din.
Yeah. So if I really have to say that the most defining phase of my life, the phase where I think that took roots of who I am today, I would say that is my childhood. So like any other Indian family, my parents are also typical in giving a lot of importance to education. But they were also unique in the sense they just did not want education for academic success, but especially my mother, who was very motivated and very spiritual and kind of did, her own self-discovery and journey in the line of Sri Aurobindo's integral education and philosophy. She always aspired that me and my brother get an education system or be in an education system where, it's not just, we are getting, academic success, but we actually grow in a very wholesome, where our mind and our soul grows along with our, our academics and our physical growth, right? So, she was really in search of where can I get such education system. And she wanted initially us to get admitted to Pondicherry's international school that is run by Sri Aurobindo Ashram. It's very hard to get an admission. They take only 50 kids all over the world. And in the process, as she was trying to do that, she came to know that in Tenali, which is actually, we have no family friends, nobody that we know of. And she came to know that there is actually a school that is being started in the principles of Sri Aurobindo's integral education. So at 3 years of my age, we moved to Tenali. My father in those days was a mining engineer, and he used to work for a Indian central government company. And he was always, posted in forests and deep inlands and desert areas. So there is really not even a good elementary school. So they had a difficult choice to make. So they wanted to give this dream education to their kids, but at the same time, they're far away. So they did make, a decision where they are going to focus, on us getting the kind of education they dreamt of. So they set their lives aside, and basically my mom stayed back for us to give this sort of experience, which I think is a turning point really in our lives. And she still today says that that was the best decision she made for us. So all my schooling actually happened in this school. It's called Sri Aurobindo Vidya Kendram in Tenali, where my mom taught the first 3 years, and then later she became an administrator and principal and a trustee. She still runs the school along with others. Not many founding members have left now, but they are all dedicated in the kind of spirit they're together to impart such an education. Although the number of parents, unfortunately, back home, as they used to be when I was young, not many parents want this sort of education. I hope, things are improving now. There is more and more awareness, and there will be better in future they realize what is more important as the children are growing up. It's not just coming first in the class. It's not just, getting scores in the tests. It's much more than that. And I really feel fortunate that I got that opportunity.
You are the second or third guest that's actually talking about the emphasis on human values, integral education, where you're not just pursuing academic success or job security or whatever else, in the conventional sense that education is designed to be, but you're also actually talking about the evolution of the spirit and education that nurtures the soul. And for your mother to discover that for herself and then make sure that her kids got that education, that kind of education, and the willingness to get out of their comfort zones and stretch themselves and make this type of investment, but also her involvement in that school, her involvement to this day, that is such a great gift. That's such a great gift that anybody can have. And for you to receive that, indeed, you're blessed and very fortunate. And you're absolutely right. That should be the focus of education. That should be the central idea behind the kind of education we impart, and not just for academic success. So thank you so much, Meera, for talking about that. What kind of extracurriculars were you involved in? What was that entire environment like for you?
Yeah, I did a lot actually. I started doing kuchipudi from the age of 3, and I did karate. I did karate for about 6 years of my school years, predominantly through middle to high school. And then I dabbed into music a little bit, but it was more to know or to savor music rather than me becoming a singer. And I used to debate, and I used to, it's a very small town. Denali is not a very urbanized, cosmopolitan sort of thing. It's a small town. And within that small town, whatever opportunities we had, thanks to the school, thanks to, my parents, the kind of exposure they have given us, we did a lot. And all of that together really helped shape my thought process today and my perspective of the world today. We used to do a lot of, in India, they used to call it as a quiz. Here we call it as Juvi. So, we didn't really have a lot of books or anything. It was just reading newspapers. My father used to tell me all about the history of India, and how, since prior to partition, after partition, I heard a lot about the geopolitics of our country through him. And my mother kind of imparted the culture, the tradition and the values that our society has carried for thousands of years. So I kind of learned different aspects from different people, starting with my parents to my teachers to people surrounding me. One other thing, again, like I said, I was blessed with being in such an environment, is every Saturday there used to be a satsang in the school. That's predominantly for the teachers, for the administrators, and the founding members of the school and the Sri Aurobindo Society. So because my mom is working there, there is nobody at home, so she had to take us wherever she was going. We ended up, listening on to some of those satsangs, even though it was meant for adults. And it really, gave that nuanced perspective of who we are, what our society is like, what should we aim as human beings. So even though, some of the times I used to get bored sitting on those, and it used to be more because I just don't have anywhere else to go, so I have to be there, But then later on, as I was growing up, I realized, some of those examples, stories I heard through those, they stuck with me. So, that's another thing I vividly remember from my childhood and cherish quite a bit.
Some of the places that we are exposed to during childhood, and especially smaller towns, they offer so much more than what meets the eye, because they're like the best kept secrets, right? There's the smaller circle of people that you're exposed to, but then it's all quality over quantity. So, these experiences are very select. The school that you went to, the kind of discussions you had with your parents, your mother's spiritual orientation, and for you to be part of those satsangs early on is such a wonderful opportunity that you had. Do you visit that school when you go back? I mean, are you still in touch?
It's very much part of my life still. Like I said, my mom we have decided basically to settle down in Denali. Even after our education, my mom just, remained there. It has become a mission for her life. At 70, she still runs the school. And, she's very much involved in it, training the teachers, all of this while she never had a formal teacher training or formal teaching education. She only, completed high school, and then she went to an occasional training. And she got a job in Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, which she let go at the time because she just got married. And, it's her pure interest in education that made her read a lot of books, that made her learn a lot from other people, that she became an educator. So she's like this awesome example where it's not the degrees that matter. It's really, what we want. And if we are dedicated in that, you can learn anything in this world. So that is something that I learned from her, that it's not, maybe to get a job and to go in the traditional path, you do need those certificates, but she kind of has proven that you don't really need a BEd or MEd to become, a teacher, a mentor. And today she's a principal with none of those, degrees, and a leading example for many people. So I kind of get my inspiration as a teacher, which we'll talk later, I'm sure, from her as well. So she was my very own first childhood teacher. She taught me, I was, in pre-kindergarten, as we call LKG, lower kindergarten, upper kindergarten, and first grade. She was my teacher. It was a very sweet memory. And the fact that she was my spiritual guru, plus she's also in an academic sense, my very first teacher. Those are somewhere, the intersection of that has a huge, I think, influence on my childhood and how the learning happened, and how I started being a receiver of knowledge, if I can say so. I think that has a teeny sense of, the teeny achievements you get, those teeny, successes as a child. Like, I didn't realize that until I was raising my kids, and I was seeing that same sort of sense of achievement in my kids when they were really young. It takes me back to my younger days, and I'm like, my mother was able to see both sides of me as a learner and as a daughter. Sometimes I ask my mom, how did you deal with that? How did you separate those two things, the student and the daughter? So those are some of very nice memories to cherish, as well as to talk about today whenever me and my mother meet. Those are interesting days for us.
I'm sure. And, what a great role model you have in your mother for you to fondly remember all those precious moments from your childhood, and to pay a homage to your mother, a tribute to her, by saying that she was your first guru, your first mentor, and she not only had influence on you as her daughter, but also as a student, is so admirable. Were you in the school in Tenali all throughout your 12th grade, or was there another schooling the school that you went to?
So it goes till 10th grade. I was in the state system. So, the 11th and 12th is technically, you call it college or early college, intermediate, as we call it. So yes, till high school, I was there. I have to say a lot of my growth till, when I finished my training here in United States as an interventional cardiologist, at every phase of my career, or at every phase of my educational journey, I had a teacher who had tremendous influence. I tried to soak as much as possible from this, one personality at every phase of my life, not just education. So I had this math teacher. We used to call our teachers uncles and aunties in our school. So that kind of takes that barrier out. So that was one of the things that our school had. Until today, they still call all the teachers uncles and aunties. So we had this math teacher called Uncle. So he kind of taught me math throughout my high school. And I used to do math well. My mom, as a first guru, I don't have a lot of memories unless my mom shares them with me. But he was kind of in my formative years. I have a lot of memories, and I consider him as my first mentor outside of my parents. So he had a lot of influence. The way he used to open up the environment for the kids to learn, the kind of positive environment he created around math was fun. We used to look forward to that class. And he was also my homeroom teacher for a long time. So he had a lot of influence on me and my ways of teaching, my ways of connecting with people. So I fondly remember him even today as someone who probably, you know, raised that interest of it. Someday I want to be a teacher, or if I'm going to be a teacher, I'm going to be like him.
That's why they call education or teaching as one of the most noble professions. The influence that a teacher can have on students, it takes time. It's like sowing a seed and waiting for the plant to grow, but the impact that they have on the lives of so many students, that especially teachers who care, teachers who are that involved with their students. It's students like you who come back and look back and with a sense of gratitude and appreciation, is such a special thing in this world. It's truly very special.
It sure is. And then as I went into my +1 and +2, which is the intermediate, I had my biology teacher who had the same influence on me. And then when I came to US and I was training, I had Dr. Berger, who I really, today, as I talk to my patients or as I practice, somewhere deep inside, I always thought, okay, if Dr. Berger is in my position, how would he approaches this? Like, whether it's a procedure I'm doing or whether it's a difficult lesion to cross while we are doing, stents in the heart vessels. So I kind of see myself as, okay, let me be him for a moment and see, especially when you're stuck in moments of complex decisions or you're teaching someone a complex thing, I really take it from these people that I have learned and say, this is how I'm going to break it into parts for my students. So really the teachers are probably had the biggest influence on that aspect of my career.
And goes without saying that it was not their degrees, but it was who they were and they are as human beings, the care and the level of dedication that they bring that truly seeps into your heart. Thank you so much for sharing that, Meera. All right. Here we move on to our next segment, which is Ye Kahaan Gaye Hum, and talk all about your journey after your high school. So what did you do? You were probably, already in a medical school, I guess. So, can't wait to learn about that.
Yes. So I started my medical school. I was around, 17, or I just turned 17. And, it was quite a journey. And I would say that's the phase where I started self-discovery. In other words, what I am capable of, what is my potential. Up until then, I know I wanted to be a doctor. I know, it's the lived experiences. There's not a particular moment where I decided I want to be a physician. I think it's just what I have seen in my childhood and what I've evolved, and developed interest in science, and actually the interest in math also helped me make the decision, even though it may sound counterintuitive. But all of this kind of obviously, it went into a track where I wanted to do medicine, and I got into the medical school at Gandhi Medical College in Hyderabad. So I was very young. And I'm independent, thanks to the kind of freedom that my parents have given me. I was quite independent in my thought process and, confident of what I wanted, even at that age. So, me and my brother was 2 years older than me, and he was in Osmania Medical College in Hyderabad. So we both were in Hyderabad. We both somehow did not want to be in the dorms. I think we used to call them as hostels back home. So, we told our parents, and my brother was already living, on his own at that time. So when I joined medical school, we got together and we said, okay, you know what, we are going to live, not in dorms. None of us like that experience. So let's make an effort and see if we can live on our own. And we ended up taking a small house, an apartment for rent. And, I started cooking for myself, my brother, first thing in the morning. And then we used to go to our college, come back, cook for ourselves, eat, study, have fun with friends. So, what's the most interesting part is our parents trusted us. They believed that, yes, we can be independent. I was 17, my brother was 19, and my mom used to come frequently to make sure that we are doing okay. And dad, mostly he worked in North India doing his work. So they both used to travel and made sure that we have what we need. But that moment of, in your adolescence, I think it's okay. It's natural in US. So now we know our kids kind of, once they finish their high school, it's an expectation that they go out. But in those days back home, it was not that sort of an expectation. So it was, again, I felt it was an opportunity for us to see what we are capable of, what, a lot of lessons when you are independent of, your parents, and you have to make a lot of decisions. You have to make financial decisions. You have to make sure you're spending the little amount that you have in a judicial way. So there's a lot of life lessons we both learned during that time frame, and living as young adults. And then a couple of years later, my brother graduated from medical school, and he always wanted to, he was more he also has a great influence on my life. So he's more of a why and a how sort of, guy. And he wanted to pursue a PhD after completing his medical school. So he came to the United States. So that, now I'm alone. I'm 19 and a half, 20. I think I was just going to be 20. And now I'm alone on my own. And, in those days, not a lot of parents let their daughters be alone, living on their own. But, again, my parents said, if you want to, you can, if you think you can do it. Yes. So I was living alone. I was fortunate to have wonderful neighbors who were always there for me, and I still am in touch with those neighbors, and so that was like 25 years ago now. And that is, again, that 2 years was fun, from the sense of I had a lot of friends always. I get my energy from the people around me. And, whether I was in high school or, later on in medical school or even here, I just truly like to be surrounded by people. And what the energy flows from both sides. There's a lot to learn from everybody that I meet. So it is, that sort of journey, I think, during those years that also helped me come to realization that what makes me happy. And what is it that I am capable of? I think those are the two things those years helped me learn, and again, shaped me who I am today.
You're absolutely right. In that era, I think, in the early 90s and late 80s and even mid 90s, right? Safety was always a big concern for parents, especially with daughters. And for your parents to have that level of confidence in you must have been because you also were very mature and wise for your age. So, and that probably also, again, went back to your mother's spiritual bent of mind, the knowledge and the wisdom that she had, and how she was able to let go of you and your brother in a way that, obviously inculcated the sense of responsibility, but also having the confidence that, there's a universe out there that's going to take care of things. So that's wonderful, because not a lot of people, would be doing that. They would feel comfortable doing that. But for you and your brother to really rise up to that occasion and take care of yourselves, develop that sense of independence and, be responsible in the realest sense, right? That is
Yes.
great. So those are life lessons. Like you said, nobody can take those away from you. And for you to get them at such a young age really paved the way for a very, very successful and bright future ahead, as we will see unfold in our next segment. So what happened after you finished your medical school? So what was that journey like? Talk to me a little bit about what you studied and what led to, you becoming a cardiologist intervention specialist.
Yes. So early on in medical school, I think even from the days of human body dissection. So the first year we learned anatomy. So I don't know why, but I was always drawn towards the heart. So, whether I think it made mathematical, physical, from the chemistry standpoint, all the things that I enjoyed in my childhood, I think, are in my high school. I think it all came together nicely. And for me, anything pertaining to the heart and the cardiology aspect of the body made sense. So, my friends used to make fun of me. Give the heart to Meera. She would be, she would be very content in dissecting. So it was just, I was drawn to this organ in the body for whatever reason. And then the physiology of it, the pathology of it. I think somewhere in the, middle of my medical college, I knew for sure no matter what aspect I'm going to study, whether it's a medical aspect of it or the surgical aspect of it, I'm going to be a cardiologist because it came naturally to me. I enjoyed learning about that. And but you have to be good, you have to have a wholesome perspective of your body. So we go through that medical school, whether you like the other subjects or not, you have to excel in everything. So once that part is done, the big decision for me was, initially I was actually going to remain in India, do my training, be a cardiologist or a cardiac surgeon. That was my goal. And, in my final year of medicine, as I was doing my internship year, it's actually after, you kind of finish your, all your formal education, and you're now doing the practical part of it, which is the internship, is when, I was contemplating, okay, let me take the next step. So that is where, my brother really asked me, don't you want to see what's out there in the world? Like, he's the explorer in my family. He was the kind of, a lot of my, like I said, the why and how and the curiosity I actually developed was because of my relationship with my brother, because of the conversations I had with my brother. And, in terms of how I grew in my career, there's a lot of that happening. So he was just casually saying, why not explore the world? You're young. Why don't you see what's out there? You can always decide if you want to come back to India, and you can settle down in India, but see the world, see other perspective. There are other ways of practicing medicine. So, if you have that opportunity, why say no? So, I thought about it. I then applied to do master's in cardiovascular research, because everything I do has to have an element of cardiology. And in the process, as I was trying to get to a grad school here, that's when I got married. And, it was an arranged marriage. And I actually, again, kind of relationship I had with my mother, it was kind of, we were almost friends by that age. She was my guide and mentor, but she was also kind of friend by that time. And we had very honest conversations about me, my friends that I had in my circle, and whether, again, kind of atypical for an Indian mother, but we did talk about it. And I said, Mom, I trust, if you are gonna, ask me to talk to someone, or there is someone that you think that I should be looking towards to talk to, maybe as my future partner, I'm okay with that. I was okay with an arranged marriage. So it's up to you. You tell me, and if there is anything that I feel about someone, I am happy to share with you. So there was always that transparent relationship with each other. So I felt comfortable to tell my mom about my feelings or about anything. So with that confidence, she was able to, proceed. And my parents, found Vijay, and they gave me an option. If you think this is the right person for you, we will be happy to. But if you think it's not the right person, we'll move ahead. There is no problem with that. So, a lot of my college mates are surprised when I said, I was actually going to have an arranged marriage with the kind of, an extrovert personality in the school with lots of friends and everything. They were kind of surprised with my decision. But again, like I said, the trust that my parents and I had, and it turned out to be, I don't like to call the word successful, but a very a content, very appreciated relationship in my life. So I got married to Vijay, and I moved to United States, and I decided to kind of put aside my master's at that point, so we can lead a couple of years together. So kind of the direction of my life was changed by marriage, but that also kind of put it in more of a fast lane for me, even for a career, because instead of doing masters and then going back to the training, now, I directly ended up joining a training program a year or so after my marriage and moving to United States.
That's unusual too, right? For you to get married, especially being independent, right? At very early age, you moved out, you lived, in an apartment and took care of your own affairs. So rightly so for your friends to be surprised that, this was an arranged marriage. But again, goes to show the strength of your relationship with your mother and the level of trust that you had. And, I'm listening about her from you and conjuring up this image of this great woman. But I'm sure if I talk to her, she's probably going to say the same things about you. For her to have a daughter like you is also a huge blessing that she has. So I guess it worked out mutually. So how many years did you study in India? And then you said you had a 1 year long training in the US. So what was that length of education that it took you to become, the chief cardiology interventionist?
So the medical school in India is about 5.5 years, including the internship aspect of it. So you kind of spend close to 6 years being in medical school as well as doing the internship. And after 6 years, I moved here, and the training included. The first year actually when I moved here, I was quite, if you think of me, I'm a very spirited, dil mein desi, dil mein Indian sort of, girl who loves her cricket, who loves the Bollywood movies, music, and comes with the spirituality, right? So I'm a very typical Indian girl at that point. And here I land in the United States. Back in the day, this was in 2002. And I didn't have anything in common. We were in the suburbs of Boston and Massachusetts. And we really, I couldn't find anything common with people around me. I was going to the library to study. And I also worked for a year as a research coordinator in Boston University for a cardiologist. So trying to learn the ways of the system here. And that year, I did something that's not medicine, but it's still kind of not practicing medicine, but it is related to healthcare. But at the same time, I started learning, there has to be a way to connect with people around me. I have to learn some things. And I'm sure all of us have gone through this journey, right? Of finding common things with the people around us. So I slowly had to, that led to residency. And during residency, again, I'm very much of a small talk before big talk person. So when I'm meeting my patients, my colleagues, again, I didn't have anything common. So during that first couple of years, I made an effort to learn, to enjoy baseball, learn the basics of the baseball, because, Massachusetts is a big fan of Red Sox. So that's a big common thing. Everybody talks about it. And, patients literally used to flow into emergency departments on a big game day. So we had to have something to talk about. So I actually was very intentional in learning that. And then, I don't drink coffee or chocolate, which was a big thing in Massachusetts, I realized, because when we started training, like everybody used to come with mugs of coffee or hot chocolate. And I didn't have anything. And one fine day, I just took a Diet Coke, and I said, okay, this is going to be my cafe. And everybody was laughing. So again, this is the kind of the small things that helped me connect with my patients, with my colleagues, with my teachers or mentors here in United States. So that is about 3 years of internal medicine residency training. And that is the first step before you become a cardiologist. So you then, with the training of 3 years of internal medicine, you end up doing 3 years of fellowship in cardiology. So that's a 6-year journey after medical school to become a cardiologist. And then you can either practice a cardiologist, or you can choose a more subspecialized aspect of cardiology. I wanted to do what is called interventional cardiology, which specializes in the procedures, in minimally invasive procedures of the heart, like doing angiograms, which is taking pictures of the heart vessels and placing stents if you find a blockage to treat heart disease and heart attacks. It includes, waking up in the middle of the night and going when there is a patient with heart attack, where you have to restore the blood flow immediately with 30-minute response time. So all of these elements kind of, came together for me, for who I am and what I enjoy doing. And that is an extra 1 year of training. So that's a total of 7 years of training after medical school. And that's, when I started practicing as an interventional cardiologist.
That really helps us segue into our next segment, which is Kaam Ki Baat. But again, kudos to you for accepting a new culture and, going all out to adapt and to acquire new tastes and, gel with the people that you were working with. It's a great training ground. But again, the universe conspired in your case to put in place everything that you truly enjoyed, had a passion for, and the way your career panned out. So that's a great story, Dr. Meera. So talk to me about what a typical day looks like for you. If somebody has a heart ailment or a heart issue and they make a visit to the doctor, are you the first person that sees that patient, and then do you triage? How does that work? So talk to me all about what you do.
Yes. So when a patient has any heart-related symptom, they come to the outpatient clinics most of the times. And I do both general cardiology, where I see patients when they initially present with symptoms, but most of my practice is more at an advanced stage, when the heart disease is already manifested and is creating bigger problems. But I do see a small subset of patients in my outpatient clinics where I meet them for the first time. They tell me I have chest pain or I have shortness of breath, and we kind of do the basic testing. And sometimes we even see patients prior to that where they have a lot of risk factors, like diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol, in terms of family history, parents or siblings in the family had early onset heart disease. So they come with those sort of issues, and we then try to prevent a heart attack or prevent a heart-related event in those. So that's mostly my outpatient, sort of what we do in the clinics and what we do in the ambulatory setting. But 90% of my time I actually spend on the inpatient side because of the skill set that I have. I take care of patients in the cardiac ICU as a critical care physician. And I also spend a lot of time in what we call a cath lab, or where the kind of or our operating room setting where we do heart-related procedures. So that's where most of my time goes, in addition to 1 to 2 sessions of outpatient clinics per week. So a lot of times we are successful in keeping patients out of the hospital, but unfortunately, sometimes they do come with an acute heart attack or, a blockage, 100% blockage in a vessel that can happen within seconds. And that's, sudden onset chest pain, that sudden onset shortness of breath, or a sick feeling or sense of doom comes in. That's when, we tell people don't wait too much, just call 911 or have someone drive to your nearest hospital immediately. So those are the subset of patients that I get to take care of when I am in the cath lab or cardiac catheterization procedure lab. And, we're also on call like every fourth night. And in the middle of the night, if someone comes like that, then the pager goes off and we respond within 2 minutes is what our response time is. And once we discuss and we think that this particular person needs to have their blood vessel that's blocked opened up, it needs to be done within 60 minutes of them touching the hospital doors. So I have to be in the hospital in 30 minutes, and then I have 30 minutes to actually start the procedure and open up the vessel, because that's the standard, that's the guideline. And through research, we have learned over the years that set this guideline that if you can get to someone the fastest when they're having an active heart attack, you can save a lot of muscle. We call time is muscle, meaning every minute lost means muscle lost. So that's sort of, it's a big element in a career for an interventional cardiologist. That kind of puts it right in conflict with some of my family responsibilities and some of the things that a female or woman is expected to do. So it was interesting when I decided that I wanted to become an interventional cardiologist. I remember still I was doing the cardiology training, and if my mother took my parents had a family friend, so my mother was visiting me, and we ended up visiting this family friend who was a cardiologist, and they gently kind of suggested to me, as a female, maybe this is not the right field for you. But again, being independent, and that's not the first time I heard that. We have heard that growing up. I finished my training in 2010, and there were very, very few interventional cardiologists. Even today, there's only about 25% of women are cardiologists, and of that, only 10 to 12% of interventional cardiologists are women. So it's a field which was thought to be not very conducive for women. And, but if you are passionate about it and this is something that, that gives you the fire in your belly, you can make anything possible. And, young, females in healthcare, they come to me sometimes for advice or mentorship and say, Dr. K, I really want to be a cardiologist, but this is what I'm being told. What do you think? How do you manage it? So that's my advice to them. It's learning how to, include everything that you value, you prioritize, and then lean on people who can help you. Then you can really make it possible. And that's one thing that I tell them. Look at me. I have no superpowers. I'm just like you. And all I had is my passion towards interventional cardiology. So you try and you figure it out. You can still have a normal life and be an interventional cardiologist. So these are conversations I have with my mentees and my trainees in between, as we are doing these procedures as well. So my day is where I do take care of patients, either in the cath lab or in the outpatient setting. And then I do train people who want to be cardiologists and who want to be interventional cardiologists. So they are working alongside us. So imparting knowledge about cardiology, imparting knowledge about how to do these procedures, but we also have these life conversations in between. And that's what makes me happy. That's what makes me wake up in the morning and I'm excited about my day, because I get to do all of these things. It's not just a routine job for me. It's about people. It's about sharing the wealth of knowledge I gained over the years and learning, from more every day. Every day you learn from a patient scenario, or sometimes my trainees ask me questions that I don't have answer for. And I'm like, oh, this is my teaching moment. Let's go back and learn together. So that excites me. That part of my job really excites me. And that's pretty much, I think I gave you a long-winded answer, but that's all I do during the day is practice cardiology, teach my trainees, have a little bit of fun about life in between. So that's my routine day.
We're so lucky to have you. So that's all I can think of. You are somebody that has a heart of gold, and you're also a brave heart. For you to say, this is exactly what I'm going to do, in spite of being told that, think it over. That takes a lot of passion, obviously, but coupled with discipline and long training. So it's not that you were just passionate about it, but you had to invest a lot of energy, a lot of time getting trained for it, because ultimately it's all matters of heart, right? So it's incredible. It's incredible that you're able to balance the responsibilities and the everything that comes with being a mother to two wonderful kids, and then you have a life, but then you have to be always alert to that pager notification and get there. That sounds very exciting, but also you got to be on tenterhooks. I mean, how do you deal with the stress? Is that stressful?
Sometimes they're emotionally exhausting, and I have to be honest about it, right? Unless I admit that, then I won't be able to deal with it. So I'll give you an example. I think my daughter was 4 or 5 months old. I got these beautiful dresses for her, and I'm dressing her up. That time I was kind of dabbing a little bit into photography. We got this beautiful camera, and then I was like trying to dress her up and take pictures of her. I was capturing like every month. I couldn't do a lot with my son because I was still in training. So my daughter, I had my daughter about 5-6 years into being a cardiologist, and I felt like, okay, I'm settling down. I can enjoy my moments with her. And that's exactly when the pager goes. And, for a moment, my heart sank. It's like, I can't even have this beautiful moment with my daughter. But, when you put that camera down, when you get into the car, you're talking to the doctors about what to do to save this gentleman's life and, or a woman's life. And we were, I'm driving now. You forget about everything. Everything goes into the background. It's like almost it goes into another compartment almost. And then you end up going to the hospital and trying to do what you can do and what you are trained to do, and you save a life. Right. And that brings immense gratitude. So, and that gratitude is something I bring home and I share with my kids. And I tell them what I did when I left home, right in the middle of a happy moment. And it helped them understand why mama has to leave us and go. And it also gives them a sense of responsibility that, this is the time we need to let go of Amma. Amma has to go save someone's life. And then when she comes back, they're back to normal. They're expecting the full of me. And I try to be a mother without any other distractions when I come back. But I do share my emotions with them. I tell them I was disappointed that I had to stop the moments. And, I went. But then I also tell them how much of a gratitude, how much of thankfulness I received because of what I did at that time when they come back in the morning and we talk about such things. So over the years, they also knew what to expect. So that was my daughter, at 4 months that we talked about. At 3 years of age, we actually went to someone's house for dinner. And the pager, she was in my lap and the pager goes off. She quickly, even before me answering the pager, she quickly gets out of my lap and goes and sits next to her dad. So it's almost like they are so trained to, to know what to do. And she's only 3, but she knows, okay, time for me to let go of Mama. Mama has important things to do, or, so it's so beautiful. But at the same time, it's also, there is a, something in the heart that pains a little bit when I see that. And I feel, that self-doubt comes in for a brief moment, that am I fulfilling my responsibilities as a mother? But then, like I said, that gets balanced by what I do in my profession. And when I come back, my kids are back to normal. They don't even remember half of the times that this has happened. But then when they grow up, they're now 15 and 9, and they actually value what I do. They actually are proud of what I do. So in the end, I see that those moments are worth it because they also help them grow. They also taught them what to value.
Yeah. It's a full circle. Life comes a full circle, everything that your mother trained and did for you. And for you to, it's a mixed bag. I can see how emotional it can get for you, especially when you're having those very special moments, very precious moments with your children, and you get a notification and you have to peel away. You have to go and do what you are meant to do, right? But you're also the closest thing that comes to God for that patient. So, it's such a special place to be in, where you have the opportunity to save another's life. And that's why, medicine, along with education, is another one of the most noble professions in the world. And for your children to, to get used to it, to appreciate you and respect you for what you do. I'm sure when they grow up and are old enough and they look back, they won't want to have it any other way. So all those moments of sacrifice are absolutely worth it. They're hard, they're very, very difficult to deal with, but they're so worth it when the universe blesses you in ways that, you cannot even imagine because of what you do and what you put out there in the universe. So continue to do the great job, Dr. Meera, and God bless you and the children for that. What are some risk factors for people with heart ailments? In our 20s and 30s, we don't care at all, right? We eat everything, and the people that don't even exercise and all that is like chalta hai, it's fine. But then a point comes where somewhere in your 40s, you start, you're thin ice with all of this, right? And then you have that dreaded blood work, and sure enough, something is off. The cholesterol's up, or you've got some, you've been diagnosed with diabetes. So what are the risk factors, and what can people do to prevent some of this? Any tips and advice for folks who are younger, perhaps, so you don't let things come to that stage? And for folks who are older, what are some things that you talk about with your patients?
I like to keep it simple. For the youngsters, I say that they're, in that age, we are blessed with the metabolism, right? We are blessed with a good metabolism. So, the key in life is about balance, what we are putting in the body and what we are consuming in terms of energy. So, and if we can teach kids since, their younger age, you eat what you need. We are hungry, we eat what we need. You don't have to overfeed them. And that is very important. I do notice that in our, Indian family, we think that it's actually respectful to offer more and more food. And also to our kids, we kind of, make a habit of, I know it's important to not waste food and finish the plate, but teach them to just take a little, and make sure they finish it. But don't teach them the habit of, overfeed yourself, because that is exactly where the child obesity starts. The concept of eating more than what you need, right? And then the next thing is the physical activity. Moderation along with being physically active. Do what you love. Is it exercise? Is it dance? Is it a sport? Is it, but teach them to have that physical health needs to be discussed. And through schools, it's the physical education. At home, it's the conversations about healthy way of living between parents. But that sense has to be instilled very young, and that will stick with the kids. That will stick with the, and when they grow up, it'll impact their family's health as well. So I would say, teach them, eat what they need, and being healthy in terms of walking, exercising, having a sport. And lastly, choosing, healthy foods. It's not that you can't eat what you like, something, we always have taste buds, and people want to indulge in food sometimes, but again, moderation is the key. You can have once in a blue moon a fried food, but keep it in moderation. That should not be part of your daily meals. So when the patients come to me, I never suggest them a drastic change in their diet, because that's almost like asking someone to be a different person, and it's not going to happen in a day or two. It's not going to happen in a week or two. It's a slow, gradual change, and it's more about learning your body and how your body is reacting to foods. So it's a process, but it's probably the hardest to change your ways of living when you're 40s and 50s, rather than when you are in your teens and 20s. And I think that is why it's important to start inculcating these habits when they're young. And the schools should actually start teaching, healthy eating. And I don't think we spend a lot of energy. In fact, at Metro Health, we have a high school within our Metro Health campus in our hospital. So we are actually collaborating with our high school science teachers, and we are actually about to implement a curriculum that's called Heart Health. So that we wanted to get to these high school students before they get into the free world, before they start their careers, because science has shown us, the research has shown us that the plaque, which is the very element that creates a blockage in your later stages of life, actually starts very early in the second decade of life, meaning in your teens. So when the disease is starting in the teens, if we don't make an impact around that time, no matter what you do later, it's too late. And when you are in your 40s and 50s, you already had the disease progressed to a point where there is no reverse at that point. So getting to our teenagers and having conversations with them about why it's important to eat in moderation, to exercise regularly, or find an activity that is equivalent to exercise is important.
Generally, the tendency is to overfeed the children because you feel that they haven't received enough nutrition, or they have not eaten well. And the parents, and grandparents decide how much the child should eat to be full. And the freedom is never with the child to say, I can't eat anymore, because that's always looked upon. You didn't eat enough. You've not had enough food to eat. And that becomes a habit, that overeating, the tendency to overeat. And like you said, the onset of early obesity, and children also deal with the after effects of that, right? They have, they become, it affects their self-esteem, the body image, especially all that fat that they're carrying around. And then for years together, they're combating that. But then, like you said, the habits have already, set at that early age. So for them to kind of change that in their 40s and 50s, it gets hard, progressively difficult. And then, you have to deal with all these consequences. So thank you so much, Dr. Meera, for shedding some light on that. What advice do you have for women, especially in their 40s and 50s? Diet is key, exercise is key. What else can they do to, because we're also seeing incidents of heart attacks in women a lot. So what are some preventative measures for women that you have?
So going back, once upon a time, the heart disease was felt to be a man's disease, but unfortunately it's not. I call it a truly equitable disease, unfortunately, because across the world, heart disease is still the number one killer for women. It's not breast cancer. It's not all cancers together. It's still the heart disease that kills most women in the world, in India, in the United States, and everywhere. So, being aware of our heart health and the risk factors is the most important. Know your numbers. When I say know your numbers, know your blood pressure, know your cholesterol numbers, know your waist circumference, know your weight, your BMI, and be conscious of how all of these have an impact on your heart disease or a future heart disease risk. So you can actually, start working on them now rather than when you have the problem. So that's one. So seeing your doctors regularly, your primary care doctor, who can help get all of these assessed at regular intervals and guide you towards a better, screening program. The second part is, as women, we put everybody else ahead of us. We put our children, we put our spouse, we put our parents. It's wonderful that as women we can do that, and we do that. But in the milieu of taking care of all the people around us, we forget about ourselves. We forget about our health. In the coming February is every year we celebrate Heart Health Month in February, and that's where a lot of us actually start. We volunteer to create awareness in the community. And the most important thing is knowing, yes, as women, we are at risk. And number two, yes, I need to take care of myself. So do not put it on the back burner. If you are healthy, then you can take care of other people. If you are showing the way of what a heart healthy way of living is in your family, then your kids are going to model after yourself, and you will be an inspiration to your spouse or your family members that are with you. So it's really not just about giving them a meal every day or doing the household chores or giving livelihood. But it's also important that precious gift of health, if you can give that to your family and also, give that to yourself, I think that is going to be the best thing you can do. And for your family too.
Great advice. Thank you so much, Doctor, for really putting things in perspective, especially for women, because they have, they assume that responsibility, and in some cases out of choice, because they have to take care of the family. And like you said, they put everybody else above them. But you need to put your own oxygen mask before you take care of others. So great advice. Thank you once again. All right. We'll move on to our next segment, which is the X Factor. And here I'd love to learn about what you think is one aspect of your personality that I'm not sure if the world knows about it, but I would love to learn about.
So one of the things that probably not a lot of people know, or at least my own friends know a little bit about it, is I love dance. I think of that as food for soul, for my soul. I have done Kuchipudi for almost 13 to 14 years of my life. But then, I had to take a long break due to my education, my career, and everything. And about 7 years ago, a couple of years into, almost 3 to 4 years into my career, now I felt like I'm settled in, and I wanted to go back to my second love. I would say that, dance was something that I felt, it's not just an extracurricular activity. I think dance instilled a lot of discipline, perseverance, respect, and all those that I now consider as my strengths or as my core values actually came from that activity in my childhood. And I really wanted to go back to that. So I did reach out to my guru, Radha Bodapati, about 7-8 years ago. And I said, Radha, I want to get back to Kuchipudi. Would you teach me? Until then she did not teach adults, and she was like, you want to go get back to Kuchipudi? And I'm like, yes. And I think she was teaching more of a Bharatanatyam until then, but she's she teaches both Bharatanatyam and Kuchipudi, and she's very well versed and very renowned in India. So I kind of said, but teach me Kuchipudi, I'm going to come back to you. So I used to go there every Sunday whenever I'm not on call. And I did it for literally 4 years. And it's almost like rediscovery of myself. And I felt like it took me back close to my inner self. It gave me that happiness. It gave me that purpose of, once you kind of settle down in life, you kind of, got to where you want to be. There is that sense of vacuum that develops. I know some people call it midlife crisis, or some people, give different names, but I call it a little bit of that vacuum, and I needed to fill that back. And the dance really helped me find that inner happiness. I had to stop a couple of years ago because I had a very freak accident and a toe fracture, but I do plan to go back again at some point. But that is, the dance is another integral part of me, other than being a mom, a physician, and and a daughter and a sister and a wife. I think the dance is as important to me as all of these other elements in my life.
You've discovered your passion, and you've had an opportunity to really do a deep dive, right? You're a doctor, you've pursued your passion with that, but also to discover dance and get the gift of dancing from your parents at an early age, and then to come back and say, now I'm settled enough, I want to get back to it, and no harm in that. It's an investment in your health. It's an investment in your soul. So, it can't get better than that. So that is wonderful. And I hope you're able to get back and, we get to see a performance from you someday. That's going to be a treat to watch. So, awesome. All right. We'll move on to our final segment in this podcast. I'm thoroughly enjoying and getting to learn so much from you, Doctor. How do you take care of yourself at an emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical level?
I have to say I have a great support system. My husband Vijay, he has always been that invisible force around me, who kind of inspires me and motivates me to be a better self. Like I said, I'm like an open book. I don't mind sharing when I'm. It's a blessing, I would say. It's easier for me to reach out to people and say, I'm sad today, or I'm angry today, or I'm disappointed today, or I'm not happy with myself. How can I better myself? So I am able to. So one, I'm surrounded with people that I can do that with. I think that's the key. And two, like I said, because I was able to share things. I'm not someone who keeps things inside. Anytime I was actually looking at your podcast with Shravanti, a dear friend as well, and label the emotion correctly, right? So I think once you label the emotion correctly, then you have to, it's not easy, but sharing it with someone and reflecting on it together with another person sometimes really helps bring you to a balance. And I am blessed in that sense that my husband, my mother, my father, my brother, even my kids, my son, I actually sit down and talk about things with my son these days, now that he's growing up into a nice young adult. And my friends, I have an excellent friend circle here in Solon that, when I need to completely take time off from my profession and even from my family, sometimes I just don't want to be tied with anything. I just want to be myself. Then I actually spend time with my friends and not talk about anything. And just, it's about me, my emotions, my friends and their emotions. And we just have this candid chat over a lunch, dinner or something. And that really helps me regroup, rebalance, re-energize, and get back to my, regular duties and responsibilities. So I think surrounding with people that you can share your emotions with. And again, like I said, that connectedness, that trust you build with these relationships also kind of help you recenter your life and give that much needed balance. So I think that's how I I like to spend my time that if I'm not, busy with my career or my family responsibilities.
Yeah, and then you're definitely addressing a very important aspect of heart health. Being emotionally healthy and staying in touch. I think that that too is a big factor that should be considered. So thank you so much for sharing that aspect of your personal care routine, and so important for women to hear that, especially because there's so many people that don't like to share, that keep things to themselves, bottle those emotions, year after year for decades. And then, it takes a toll on you physically, mentally, emotionally. So for you to set that example is fantastic. And I appreciate that so much. All right. Well, before we wrap up today's wonderful session, I'd love for you to share some parting thoughts with our audience, anything that you want to talk about before we wrap up.
So I would say for all the young people out there, as well as for all the women who might be hearing this podcast at some point, belief in yourself and the people around yourself, and that ability to connect with people. I think these are the most valuable things we all can rely on, and also help our kids learn these things, because a human being is meant to be along with other human beings. There's a purpose there, for us to be in a community, right? There's a value why community is created to begin with. And I think, getting that, or valuing those relationships, and thinking of, we can learn something from everybody around us, whether we agree with them or not. That's not the point. It's about every person brings a perspective that is valuable. And I just would say that be open to meeting people, new people, rebuilding relationships. And that's the utmost thing that at least I get my joy and my energy from. And lastly, for all the women out there, please put your health ahead of all priorities, because if you cannot be healthy, you cannot help your families as well. So take care of your heart health. There's the Go Red campaign coming up. Spread the message, encourage women around you to take care of themselves. And, and my very best wishes for all of you.
It's wonderful to connect with you and learn about your journey, to discover you, Dr. Meera. And, I hope and wish continued success for you in all your endeavors. And God bless. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure, Anu. Thank you.